Good evening. 21 goals in the First Division today. 6 at Old Trafford, 5 at White Hart Lane. And following their 9-0 demolition of Crystal Palace on Tuesday night, Liverpool were at home to Norwich at Anfield. Norwich presumably quaking in their boots. But after the match against Palace, no one was quite sure if Kenny Dalglish was serious, as he spoke at length about the ones that got away. He obviously saw something that we didn't, and his worst fears were manifested this afternoon. A hard man to please, Dalglish. It was a case of after the Lord Mayor's show and all that. But it wasn't all one-way traffic. Don't forget Norwich won at Anfield last season. They might have done again. Robert Rosario, 2 goals last week and a coat of paint away from another this afternoon. How did it stand? 3 visits to Anfield. The Norwich goalkeeper Brian Gunn has yet to concede a goal. But here it comes, surely. Beardsley. They must have moved the posts. But believe it or not, the worst is yet to come. The only excuse is that Liverpool paid £650,000 for Glenn Hussein to stop him, not score him. No goals at Anfield, 0-0. And both Liverpool and Norwich remain unbeaten. Manchester United, on the other hand, had lost their previous 3 games at home to the First Division leaders at this time last week. Millwall, 23 years since they won the championship, but if they fail again, it won't be for the lack of trying or spending. Here's Martin Tyler.
At Old Trafford, Danny Wallace was introduced to Manchester United's fans. His move from Southampton settled. And Paul Ince, at last, stepped into the number 8 shirt vacated by the injured Neil Webb. Well, it was Mark Hughes who got United back on the winning trail. The best of his hat-trick came after 13 minutes. Memories of those 3 consecutive defeats did surface when Jim Leighton slipped and never fully regained his position. All credit, though, to Teddy Sheringham for racing in to equalise bravely for Millwall. But United regained the lead before half-time. Brian Robson fit again and firing his shot high beyond Brian Horn. The second half saw a splendid moment for 18-year-old Lee Sharp. His first goal for Manchester United. Understandably, he hadn't got the slide of celebration quite right. (3-1) and the rest belonged to Hughes. On hand when Brian McClare's effort was parried straight to the scorer's feet. 4-1, 15 minutes left now. Ample time for the Hughes hat-trick, courtesy of a direct run-in on goal. Hard to predict United, but as they showed against Arsenal, when they are good, they're very, very good.
Well, it's Derby Day in the Northwest next Saturday. United City, Liverpool, Everton. Now, the biggest threat to Liverpool could come from one of their own fans, or at least he used to be until very recently. Mike Newell's beginning to look a snip, even though he cost $1 million. Everton away to Charlton this afternoon. No Norman Whiteside, but Newell continued to look a real match winner. His 4th of the season, following an exquisite turn, proved to be just that.
Coventry City against Luton, who'd gone 387 minutes without conceding a goal until Gary Bannister ran free. Coventry picking up the pieces after their mauling at Millwall. In the second half, on a sodden surface, Coventry lost their way here. Trevor Peake in an untidy episode with Roy Wegerle, a penalty given. Keith Waugh in the Coventry goal, Steve Ogrizovic injured. Danny Wilson was 2 out of 2 from the spot this season for Luton. Now he's 2 out of 3.
Nottingham Forest against Arsenal. One of the great performances of last season when Arsenal won 4-1 at the City Ground. Splendid work by Lee Dixon down the right. It was like a motorway pile-up on the near post, only Paul Merson anticipating the long ball, his 2nd in successive games. Now enter one of the Forest heroes of last season, Gary Parker, whose goal got them to Wembley in the Littlewoods Cup and who had a starring role in the Simod. Ready, aim, fire. Beauty. But Arsenal are rapidly recovering from their opening day mauling at Old Trafford. The confidence and the style that won the championship has returned. It's quick, it's incisive and thoroughly effective. Brian Marwood, the finishing touch, 10 minutes left, too late for Forest.
Back in January, Derby County won 1-0 at Queen's Park Rangers. They did the same again. Paul Goddard's cross, Dean Saunders the scorer, and even the return of Trevor Francis as a substitute couldn't repair the damage for Rangers.
Sheffield Wednesday rock bottom, morale not much better at home to Aston Villa. Wednesday with only 1 point and 1 goal to show from their toil and sweat so far. Credit Daly and Atkinson for that and for today's winner. The boast at Hillsborough, when Atkinson scores, Wednesday don't lose.
Well, Crystal Palace found that there was life after Liverpool, despite going a goal down away to Southampton. It was the first in Southampton's colours for their Welsh international midfield player, Barry Horn. Palace picked up a point, though, with 12 minutes left. Jeff Hopkins with the back header with the aid of a deflection. Southampton won, Crystal Palace won.
Wimbledon versus Manchester City without Clive Allen. Wimbledon's record prior to the game, 3 draws, 3 points, 3 goals. Their first win set up by Dennis Wise's cross and John Fashionu's first goal of the season, 1-0 Wimbledon.
At White Hart Lane, the rebuilding goes on. The East Stand still closed, the ground capacity just under 20,000, no tickets for Chelsea. But their team managed splendidly without any official support. Kerry Dixon registered his 150th goal for the club with a splendid lob. He'd earlier missed 2 easier chances. Dixon was put through by Graham Roberts, who with Mickey Hazard and Dixon relished beating their old club. Kerry Dixon had 1 season as a part-timer with Spurs 10 years ago, but they released him, and we're regretting that today. Dixon played a major part in Chelsea's second, flicking on a Peter Nicholas corner. The scorer, Kevin Wilson, a most capable deputy for the injured Gordon Jury. 2-0 right on half-time, and Chelsea very good value against the Spurs side in dire need of inspiration. Paul Walsh did his best to provide it. Paul Gascoigne snapping up the chance, but Walsh impishly created. But 2-1 flattered Tottenham. Chelsea soon regained control. Right back, Steve Clarke, well found by Kevin Wilson. 3-1, and Chelsea still displaying all the verve that made them runaway champions of the second division. John Bumstead and the excellent Hazard set up the 4th, a second for Kevin Wilson with 13 minutes left. Tottenham in disarray now. Terry Venables made no excuses afterwards. Spurs 4 games without a win. The Tottenham manager admitted, "We were awful."
I watched that game this afternoon. Spurs weren't that good. But take nothing away from Chelsea. Be nice to see more of them. Right, top of Division 1, Everton. Second, Liverpool. They meet next week. Coventry and Chelsea closest to breaking the Merseyside monopoly. At the other end, 3 clubs on 4 points propping up the rest, 2 without any sort of pre-season championship aspirations, Sheffield Wednesday and Manchester City. As for Spurs, awful just about sums